Dear chess friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's been a long wait, but finally I'm very excited to come up with a new work, a new database, and it's very much related to my previous work. So let me explain you. Now, my latest file was so-called New Surprise in Sicilian, which was never published before, in my opinion, unless I'm missing something. So I came up with this interesting line in open Sicilian, which goes with the move Queen b6, which is not a new move. I call it grievous variation, but after knight b3, I came up with a new move order e6. Now, it's not that I invented this move, but I don't think there were any publication before that which covers this move order, and it's very significant to compare with the regular move knight f6. And it's been very successful, I have to admit. I got a lot of downloads with this file, so people always interested in Sicilian. Now, I got a lot of requests in this position to cover Rossolimo variation, which is quite serious alternative. I have a lot of respect to Rossolimo. It's very annoying. Many people, like, I'm talking with my students and they're always concerned about bishop b5. So it's a very serious line, in my opinion, on the level of open Sicilian. I always give an example of Caruana-Carlsen match where Fabiano first 3 games actually opted for Rossolimo, and Fabiano wouldn't play something harmless. He's like top theoretician, maybe the best in the world. So he played first 3 games bishop b5, and only after that he switched to open Sicilian Sveshnikov. All 6 games ended in a draw, but that's a very important fact to know. So now I already have one database on my site, Ask-Avrukh.com, which covers very interesting move e5, which I thought very interesting but somewhat risky. However, already I'm not sure, because Magnus was playing this quite a lot. I remember when I posted this file probably 2-3 years ago, there were a couple of games of Magnus, but when I'm checking online database, he has more than 10 games right now. So it's probably also very interesting idea, very tricky positions. It's very hard to say that it's super reliable. There will be more developments, I'm pretty sure. And the type of positions similar to Ruy Lopez, not in everyone's taste. Now, it goes without saying that in this position, top 2 choices for black have been g6 and e6. Those are, I think, by far, with a serious margin, top 2 choices. And there is a lot of theory. A lot of top players have been playing this. White has a lot of ideas. It's always a lot to discuss, a lot to cover, a lot to analyze. White choosing the type of pawn structure and so on. So I got this idea to check the move that I have been playing some 20 years ago, even more. And it's actually a very natural move d6, which would be black 3rd choice according to the database. So it's just a normal move, but hasn't been popular as 2 moves that I mentioned before, g6, e6, although now it's played more and more. Especially, I would like to mention the name of Indian superstar Arjun Erigasi. So he has been playing this with very good results, and it's a classical Sicilian move. What is good about the system is that basically it would be a good fit for those who struggle with Moscow variation. Meaning, what is Moscow variation is when black starts with move d6, Najdorf players, classical Sicilian players, and get bishop b5. And that's also super annoying. I know, like, everyone, well, there is bishop b5. Somehow nobody is afraid of open Sicilian. Obviously, you have to be ready, but bishop b5, where white has, like, very positional play, very positional setups, it's really a headache for many people. So here, for those who struggle, and let's say they had doubts, analyze bishop d7, knight d7, how about knight c6 move? So that would be a good fit for them as well. And I also would like to mention that in this position, besides those variations, a very important line, which is as far as I checked, the name is Chekhover variation, CD4, Queen D4, which is also, I wouldn't equalize this to Rossolimo, but it's a pretty serious line. I would call it a very dangerous line if black doesn't know the theory. And that's also will be covered. And here I decided, actually I found something interesting. But before we move to main points of my variation, so all the critical lines that, as always, I give this promotion, I would like to remind you guys that please, if you like my work, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, click notification button so that you will be the first one to know that something is published, and already you can maybe introduce this in your games. And of course, it's much appreciated if you can leave the comment, like the video, and obviously you keep updated. So in this line, I was actually very excited to discover a new variation which has been quite popular on the high level. I always played bishop d7, and it seems like, well, it's hard, what's the alternative to this? Well, I discovered it's actually black can play e6. And so basically forcing bishop c6 because queen is hanging bc6. And now there is as always, those who are familiar with my files, detailed coverage of all top choices. So there will be 6 moves. Now, I believe this pawn structure is the most critical one. So we play e5, attacking the queen. Queen d3 looks like the most flexible square for the queen. And then we play knight e7. Knight comes to g6, we put bishop e7. Very fighting pawn structure. We are looking forward after the development to strike with the move f5. We have bishop pair, very complicated. Seems to me black is doing really well in this variation, and we don't need to enter all this bishop d7, queenside castle, double-edged, super double-edged, where white starts the attack on the kingside position. So looks like a very viable alternative to already existing theory. I have seen a few games of Firuja, so that's a good sign, and I hope you're gonna like this. So back to our Rossolimo variation. Now in this position, obviously d4, it's not the top choice, but something that we have to be ready, especially maybe like you might play some different variation against queen d4 normally, but now you have already knight on c6, so you have to know what is happening with knight c6. So obviously castle is the main move, but of course, after d6, white can play bishop c6. There is always, whether you play g6, e6, white can always take, so force this type of pawn structure that it's quite challenging. Castle is the main move. And here, what kind of setup we go? So I used to play bishop g4, if I'm not mistaken, but now I came to conclusion that e5 is very kind of like challenging, very straightforward. So if white is not playing c3 for quick d4, we have excellent position, probably already fighting for advantage. So c3, d4, what we do here, we challenge the pawn on e4. f5, and it's a fascinating play. Again, I wouldn't recommend something that black is not doing well. So black, in my opinion, is doing pretty well here and have a very interesting double-edged play. So this is one line. Now let's get back to our main line, which is castle. We follow up with bishop d7. This is must. Now there are three critical moves here. Rook e1, c3, c4 is very interesting. Actually, maybe a little bit underrated. Now, so basically, c3 we respond a6, and there will be different moves here. Bishop a4, bishop takes c6, and so on. Much more popular, rook e1, so that's the main line. And now, very important detail, instead of much more common knight f6, I suggest to play immediate a6. We'll get back to this, but now I had a few lines that I was a little bit concerned about. So first of all, there are some recommendations where white suggests h3. It's kind of like very annoying move, preventing bishop g4, so waiting what kind of setup black chooses. White plays very simple. They want to play c3, d4, so I was not a big fan of this position. And another position that bothered me a little bit, I remember I analyzed it during my work with Boris Gelfand. I was on his team preparing for world champion match against Vishy Anand. So it's a main line c3, a6, bishop f1, bishop g4, and now d4. Very aggressive, with the point that after bishop f3, white recaptures gf3. I felt like white has some kind of initiative, although it's a lot of high-level games here. Maybe objectively white, black is okay, but I felt somewhat uncomfortable. And then I realized actually by following the games of Indian superstar Erigasi, I noticed that he always played a6, and I thought it's very clever. So now, usually we will just transpose to all those lines, but the critical test for immediate a6 would be bishop c6, d4. So that's the line that's allowed actually, because pawn on e4 is not hanging. And here we just play cd4, knight d4, and we play rook c8, very important. We want to recapture on c6 with the rook, not with the pawn. And we get this position. I think the only critical test is c4, not so many games here. We play g6, knight c3, bishop g7, and we get this Marutse bind. But I have a strong feeling that black is doing really well, because usually in Marutse bind you have an issue with the bishop on c8, so bishop on c6 is much more active, and there are some interesting ideas for black. Again, in my opinion, black is absolutely fine in this position. So, and that's relatively new theory, because as I mentioned before, not so many games here. So this is one. Now, what is the main line? The main line is bishop f1. Now, by the way, very interesting move I would like to mention, it's bishop c4, where black actually kind of like might play b5, but it will create additional target later on. White might attack this pawn structure with the a4, so it's extra idea. So we play knight f6, c3, so it's transposed exactly to the line which can happen through knight f6 move order. We play bishop g4, and it's very interesting fight. Everything is covered. Very complicated positional chess here. Again, I believe black is perfectly fine here. Now, let's go for bishop f1. So now we play bishop g4. Once again, we don't play knight f6 in order to avoid one of the lines that I kind of like didn't appeal to me. So we play immediate bishop g4. Now h3, of course, the top choice. Now a very exciting line c3. So with, again, knight f6 would take us to the line which I was a little bit concerned about, which is immediate d4. Therefore, our move order is e6. So what we play after d4? After d4, there is a very exciting line where we play queen h4. I don't know if it was invented by Indian Grandmaster Adiban, but he has a couple of games here. Very interesting chess. Obviously, there are some concerns here with the king on g1. We can castle queenside. Surprisingly, very, very double-edged position. And I really like this for black. Now, so instead of c3, the main line is h3. Let me show you the main direction. We have to give up the bishop. We have to give up the bishop. I discovered something strange. After bishop h5, white can play g4 followed by c3, d4, and c3 has never been played. White plays some other moves, but c3, d4 seems very, very promising for white. Therefore, we must take on f3, queen f3. We play e6, c3, knight f6, d3, and basically we transpose to the line when black starts with knight f6 instead of a6. And this position is somewhat a tabia, I think over 400 games. So we have a normal development, bishop e7. Now, there are two bishops for white, but I have to emphasize that it's very hard to insert bishop f1 into the game and make it really useful and influential. So that's the whole point. Meanwhile, we have quite an easy play in these positions. So just to give you one example, I covered 5 moves here. So for instance, and there are very interesting ideas. For instance, after queen g3, suddenly we play rook g8 and we are looking for g5 while we can castle queenside. So that's very interesting. So usually, like for instance, there was one of the recent Fabiano games, knight d2 is classical, slowly moving knight to a3. So we play castle, queen goes to d1, with idea knight f3 or maybe f4, knight f3. So we play d5. So it's always d5, b5. We choose. It's pretty simple play, and white has a lot of ideas and have to think how to arrange pieces. Now the main line is e5. Again, other moves covered. I think 3 alternatives. We play knight d7, knight f3. Now, important to mention, f4 would be not accurate. We strike with surprising bishop h4 and bishop g3, and we play b5. And actually, this bishop on g3 is super annoying. So that actually works great for black. So therefore, knight f3 is kind of like well-established top choice. And now we have a choice. I don't want to allow white to play d4. So I play d4, and we get extremely interesting position. We can target the pawn on a5. We have the ideas on the queen side. Of course, white has bishop pair. Very complicated play. I think I dived much deeper than exists in theory, so that's what I'm always proud of in my files. That's why when you get this material, hopefully it will carry out you for many years ahead. And I think black is perfectly fine. So overall, very complicated line. And for those who are interested in very detailed PGN file, please head over to my website, which is ask-avrukh.com, and you can download PGN, or you can download only view format where you can see this line on the side. And by the way, 30% discount on all files which are above $25. I decided to continue this discount, so I posted that it will be until February, but then I decided let's give it like 10 more days, because my birthday on February 10th, so 10 more days for this. So already discounted price, it will be discounted price already, and hopefully you'll find this useful. And as I always say, if you decide not to download, you already have critical points of this line, so you can easily, well, I'm not sure about easily, but you can develop this line by yourself. But you already have critical positions, you have move orders, so it will be way easier instead of starting by yourself. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed my work. I hope you enjoyed this material, and I'll see you soon with my future work. Thanks for watching, and good luck with chess.